Yes, guys, welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. How you doing? I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love with the people that you love doing them with. Bugsy Malone's over there and asked me to ask you for some favours. If you don't mind, and only if you enjoy the content, would you hit the like button for me? It really does help the channel out. Would you hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't? And even if you have, can you double check that you still are? Because people who are subscribed keep telling me that they are being unsubscribed every single day. It's very frustrating. I'm not sure what's going on, but please double check. And if you are unsubscribed, then make sure you get that button redouble clicked. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's Sunday Tottenham update on all things that have happened since we last spoke. Let's start with the Timo Werner news, guys. It is a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. Timo is on his way to Tottenham. He's flying over today to take a medical. Contracts and paperwork are drawn up, waiting to be signed. He cannot wait to get under the Ange umbrella and reignite his somewhat stuttering career. It split the fan base, as I said it would yesterday. 50%, not even 50, I'd say 60-70% of Tottenham fans see the logic, the method to the madness, and can see it as a low risk, high reward opportunity where, in a nutshell, I think we have to pay somewhere between 3 and 5 million euros to Leipzig for the loan fee, and we have to pay the entirety of Timo's salary, which is about £165,000 per week, plus about £35,000 in bonuses. And so we're looking at about 200 grand a week, or in a nutshell, somewhere around a £5 million mark between now and the end of the season. We do have the option, if he wants to and if we want to make the deal permanent in the summer. But for me personally, I don't think that will happen, short of some absolutely incredible numbers. I think that this is more of a papering over the cracks, a figuring out the opportunity and measuring the cost. And to me, it makes a lot of sense. I won't go through the rationale as to why yesterday, but I'm looking forward to seeing him coming in. And, I think everybody is wishing and willing for this one to be a success, because we're going to absolutely need him. In terms of what success looks like, to me, I would say it's more about impact over input. If you were to say he has to score, 7 goals and 4 assists, like an 11 or 12 GA between now and the end of the season, then that could be meaningless if he hits those numbers, but they are in situations that don't really support the narrative of what we're trying to achieve. If we were to go and beat a team 6-0, like a Burnley on the last game of the season, and he was to score a hat-trick and hit the 4th, 5th and 6th goal, like, it might do wonderful things for his numbers, for his confidence, and a great way to finish the loan. But ultimately, if it's too little too late, it's not really helping us. Whereas if he was to only score 4 goals in his entire time at Tottenham over the next 6 months, but all of them were game winners against Manchester United next Sunday, against Chelsea away, against Arsenal at home, and against Manchester City, then those are measurable, impactful, and incredibly important moments that will for sure be the difference between this exercise and experiment being judged as a success versus a failure or a relatively insignificant contribution. So I'm not really going to put too many labels on exactly how many goals or how many assists he needs, but for me, I think it's about the impact that he has on the squad, the impact on the team, and whether or not he contributes in a meaningful way in meaningful games. That's how I'm going to measure it, and consequently, there's no point in asking for a specific set of numbers. I'm looking forward to him coming in, and according to reports, if all things are done and dusted by this evening, then he will join up with the first team tomorrow morning in training and have a full week's training ahead of a crucial crunch game against Manchester United at Old Trafford in 1 week's time. Look, for those people that are saying we have sold Harry Kane and replaced him with Timo Werner, I think we're missing the wood for the trees. Whilst if you want to see the logic for why I think it makes sense and why I think it's a good deal for Tottenham Hotspur, you can check out the video I did yesterday on that. The link will be just above. But I'd also add to that flavour that not only does it make sense on paper, but I'd finish off the kind of value proposition of the transfer with this. What else are we going to do? It's nearly impossible in January to see any major transfers, any meaningfully major names move from one club to the other. The biggest names in world football do not generally change clubs in January. The biggest names, you have to go back, Luis Diaz maybe a couple of years ago, Virgil van Dijk, was a good example of one. But generally speaking, all of the biggest transfers happen in the summer. And I think Tottenham are biding their time here. The market isn't ripe for that sort of risk. And you'll end up paying 50, 60% more than what the player is worth in January to force the hand of owners who don't want to sell. So not only does the deal make sense financially, logically, and situationally, but I would also kind of, as I say, tie the argument up in a bow, a ribbon, with we don't really have too many other options. It's a dry market. And on that basis, let's all get behind it, wish the guy well, and hope that, once again, Tottenham fans who resent the idea of a certain name coming in because they have demands or expectations or dreams, ambitions of bigger names that excite that garner more excitement at the prospect of seeing them in a Tottenham shirt can provide. Let's see if this one ends up the same way as Mickey van der Ven did, as Vicario did, and Ange Postecoglou did. Most people didn't want Ange, and now most people couldn't imagine a different scenario having played out. Most people didn't want Vicario, and he's the best goalkeeper in the league. Most people didn't want Mickey van der Ven and are salivating at the prospect of getting him back in 7 days' time. Maybe, just maybe, Timo Werner might surprise everybody to the upside. And it's in his best interest to come here with the best intentions. And if Ange can find the right script, the right set of words in the right order, spoken in the right tone, to harness some sort of confidence and positive energy out of Timo Werner, then we know that there's a player there. We've seen it. 2 goal or assists in every 3 games over the entirety of his career, including the last 3 years where he struggled. There's a player in there, guys. We just got to get it out of him. Anyway, that one's done, or hopefully done. We'll find out when we see him holding the shirt in a couple of hours' time in an ideal world. In terms of Radu Dragusin, well, this one is being dragged out, as we know. But there is a little bit of update that is, you know, something in the kind of zeitgeist around Napoli. Napoli obviously are fighting Tottenham for the signature of Radu Dragusin, but according to all reports, Napoli have actually turned their attention now to ex-Tottenham player, Galatasaray centre-back Davinson Sanchez. Maybe this is a sign of a concession that Dragusin is more likely to come to Tottenham once Tottenham can find the right structure to a payment scheme for the player, and the player has chosen Tottenham over Napoli, and that with Tottenham's financial supremacy and the fact that the player would be leaving Italy altogether and so wouldn't be playing for a rival, then the whole deal of Dragusin to Tottenham makes more sense. Does Sanchez to Napoli make a lot of sense? Well, he's just joined Galatasaray, and so unless there is a buyout clause or something in the contract, then it would be weird. But the fact that Napoli, according to all somewhat serious and kind of tier 1, if you like, reports out of Italy, are suggesting that Napoli have turned their attention in that direction, then it does suggest to me that even if it's not Davinson Sanchez, the idea that Napoli are looking for a plan B or a plan C should somewhat support the narrative that Tottenham are about to get Radu Dragusin in. And of course, according to reports in this country, that deal depends on Tottenham finding a new home for Eric Dier. And Eric Dier to Bayern Munich still hasn't been ratified, still hasn't been confirmed yet, but according to Fabrizio Romano, all of the details are done. The player has agreed terms. He's very excited. Tottenham are happy with the deal. Bayern Munich are happy with the deal, but they have just got to pull the trigger. The deal is organised and ready to go. And I think that if Bayern Munich were to turn around and say, OK, let's do it, and that would happen in the next 24 hours, as soon as that's done, then I think the Radu Dragusin deal will be done. If Bayern Munich were to move in a different direction, and after having sorted all this out, then say, you know what, sorry, Eric Dier, we've changed our mind. We've been looking at social media and we've seen the reaction from Tottenham fans and the English media that can't quite believe that a player of Eric Dier's calibre is about to sign for Bayern Munich. We must have missed something here. They might change direction. So I'm urging everybody to relax on the we can't believe Eric Dier's going to Bayern Munich narrative, because it might just seep through and diffuse into the minds of the Bayern Munich decision makers, and they may change their tune, and that's not something we want to happen. So for me, I think that everything's looking good. Napoli might be moving in a different direction. Eric Dier hopefully will be ratified at Bayern Munich, and then once that's done, we can then put the final piece together for the deal for Radu Dragusin. After that, guys, we're just going to be having to move our narrative for the next 25 days around what else we could possibly do. Are we going to be moving on Pierre Højbjerg? Are we going to be cancelling or shaking hands and saying goodbye to Ivan Perisic? Well, all of that looks more and more likely, as Ange Postecoglou did say that he thinks Perisic has played his last game for Tottenham. And so if that is the case, then are we going to essentially not add him as a foreign or non-homegrown member to our squad? And if so, does that then allow us to go and do one more piece of business without necessarily having to sell a Pierre Højbjerg, a Lo Celso, or an Ollie Skip, or anybody else? I'd like Tottenham to go and get a little bit of work done in the midfield. Conor Gallagher, for what it's worth, the noise is out again today that Chelsea have actually upped their asking price for Conor Gallagher from 50 million to 60 million. But ultimately, according to all the reports, that Conor Gallagher would still turn down any move away from the club in January, and he has every right to do so. You can't force a player to leave. He's still got 18 months left on his contract. Will Tottenham look elsewhere? As we've said before on this channel, Arthur Vermeeren is an answer to an interesting question around, are you looking for someone to come in and compete in a multitude of different positions, or a specialist in the six? And for me, Vermeeren is an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 18-year-old out of Royal Antwerp, is one of the hottest properties in Europe in that sixth position. He can do absolutely everything at the moment that is being asked of him, and the ceiling for this guy is incredibly high. His potential is through the roof. And of course, even though he's non-homegrown, you can put him into the youth system for the next 3 years, and just like Pape Sarr, would eventually be able to be transitioned into a homegrown player as long as the deal is done in January, which is another consideration. Do Tottenham need to necessarily have to worry about their homegrown players if they can go and find the very best talent in Europe that is not, well, that still has enough time within their youth to be able to train within Tottenham for 3 years before they turn 22, and therefore technically move as a homegrown player once they mature into full-grown adulthood, if they're like first team members. Interesting stuff. Lots of other players to talk about, but not for this particular video. Guys, that's the update for today. I will see you later on for a live stream, and also don't forget, check us out tonight on Henry Wright TV for Tottenham Takes episode 10. Like, subscribe and comment, guys, and as always, bye bye.